celebrating Leicester City's parade yesterday, but I don't know if you got a chance later on to catch the BBC's Panorama programme. The investigation last night exposed the ruthless supply chain behind one of the UK's fastest growing criminal commodities, dogs. Now, the puppy trade is believed to be worth hundreds of millions of pounds. A task force has now been set up to crack down on those dealing illegally in dogs. Earlier this morning, I spoke to Panorama reporter Sam Poling.
This trade is huge. I mean, I never managed to get a figure on it other than it's multi-million pounds being made. And unsurprisingly, because there is so much money to be made, I came across quite a lot of unscrupulous sellers, suppliers and dealers out there trying to make as much money as they can from it. You'd have seen from last night's film, I've spent the last 6 months investigating the entire supply chain from the puppy farmers right down to the sellers to see how it all works, and discovered some really pretty horrific practices. One of the farms that you would have seen was in the Republic of Ireland. This was owned by a man called Raymond Cullivan in County Cavan. And this place was huge. This was a massive complex of barns in quite a remote area and filled with dogs. This guy is licensed for 300 breeding bitches. Now you add pups on top of that, you can imagine how many dogs are there. And it was horrific. One of the barns that we came across, and this is the footage that I think shocked most viewers. When I went in, this barn was filled with boxes, numerous boxes, 6 sides, solid, no air holes, no ventilation holes. And when I slid open the top of these boxes and looked down, they were filled with dogs. It was unbelievable. Never expected to see that. And these were expectant mums, either about to give birth or dogs who had just given birth. And there were water bottles drilled through the side. You know the water bottles you'd have had for your guinea pig or your rabbit? They were drilled through the side, and this was the only contact these dogs had with the outside world. It was unbelievable.
I mean, how does this happen? Surely there's got to be a system, you'd think, to inspect these kind of places.
There is. This place was licensed. That was the shocking thing for me. This place was licensed, which means it's been inspected and declared by the authorities fit for purpose. Now, Cavan County Council, who's responsible for licensing this place, told us that 6 inspections have taken place over the last 12 months. 6. And, this is a quote, they hadn't encountered any direct evidence of any welfare problems during these inspections, and in fact they said it was generally compatible with the current legislation. Now, Mr. Cullivan himself didn't respond to any of my requests for a comment. I spoke to Mark Abraham, he's a vet and animal welfare campaign, about what I'd seen, and he told me the kind of problems that he sees as a vet on the front line with these dogs bred in this way.
We see puppies coming in underage, underweight. We see them suffering from infectious diseases, and of course you also have behavioural problems. So this tiny ball of cute fluff is actually a ticking time bomb of disease, pain, suffering, and let's not forget the breeding bitch that it actually was born from.
So how do these puppies end up as pets?
So this is the next link in the supply chain. These are the dealers, and these are the ones who'll either sell the dogs themselves or pass them on to a network of sellers. Very often what they'll do is they'll advertise themselves as the breeders, because obviously, you know, the public would be pretty horrified to discover the pup that they've just bought has come from one of these puppy farms. And they've come up with quite ingenious ways of deceiving the customer. We're always told as buyers, ask to see the mum. So what these dealers have now done is they've got a mum, they've got their hands on mums, and they're showing them with the pups. They're called show bitches, and we managed to capture this on camera for the first time. You're just about to hear from Warren. He's an undercover investigator for animal welfare charities around the country, and he's seeing this method being used as well.
What the dog breeders and the dog sellers have decided to do now is they get a show bitch. So you have a bitch, a mother dog, which looks very like the similar type of pup, which is up for sale in the same room, and it creates the impression that this pup has come from the mother that's in the room. It's just a show bitch, which is purely there to fool the public who are paying cash for pups which have come from a puppy farm.
And just lastly, I mean, it seems an incredible, sophisticated scam. How can families ensure that they're not knowingly helping this trade? Because that's what people are going to be wondering this morning.
This is what everybody's been asking me since the film went out last night. Number 1, ask to see the pup's mum. if you don't see the pup's mum, that's an issue. That's a red flag. Talk to people who've recently bought a puppy. Where did they get it from? Check out the breeder. Get a dog from a rescue centre. There's always dogs looking for homes. But it is hard, you know. A third of all pups bought today will have come from a puppy farm, either licensed or unlicensed. So do your research, and I guess, you know, if it feels wrong, it is wrong. Walk away.
Panorama reporter Sam Poling speaking to me a little bit earlier on. We can talk now to dog behaviourist Debbie Connolly, who joins us on the line. Hi there, Debbie.
Hello.
Hi. I mean, this is quite extreme, really, isn't it? You'd think when you're buying something as simple as a dog, a little puppy, for the family, you wouldn't imagine what they may have been going through. You also say that it's quite prevalent here in the East Midlands.
It is. It's very prevalent. I mean, I live in the East Midlands. We've had significant numbers of the puppy farm outlets, and it's important to stress here that what was shown in the programme yesterday evening, and Mark Abraham, the TV vet who campaigns for Pup Aid, is a good friend of mine. I've stood in Westminster with him many times. It's important to stress that what you saw was a puppy farm in Southern Ireland, and I've been on social media this morning, and the vans were obviously traced back to the UK, but there's a slight misunderstanding amongst some people on social media that it's all about Ireland. It truly isn't. We have significant numbers of exactly the same thing of that, as you saw, particularly in southern and western Wales. You've got very large licensed puppy farm breeders there and significant unlicensed ones. So these dogs are all over the UK, and it's important to understand that every single town in the UK is affected and is selling puppy farm puppies, whether it's from the pet shop or a garden centre or individual resellers who literally buy in. So you saw some of this on the programme yesterday. People buying in puppies to sell on. Whether they have the show bitch or not is somewhat irrelevant because they don't all do that. But as Sam says, that you have to look at what's being sold if there's no mum. There are very simple things that people can do. I see this in the East Midlands all the time, that there are adverts out for establishments selling in the Leicestershire area and Lincolnshire area multiple breeds of dogs for sale, week in, week out. We know for a fact that those are coming from unscrupulous breeders, from puppy farmers, van deliveries every week. It is literally everywhere. Now, one of my concerns is that there are people who will deliberately buy these pups because they've actually been turned away. I've talked to people who were turned away by good breeders and rescues because they weren't suitable either for any dog or for the breed that they wanted. And instead of saying, thank you for helping me not to make a mistake, they'll simply go to these places because it's no questions asked. So it is everywhere. It isn't just an Irish problem. It is a UK-wide problem.
One of the things that seems to be most revealing about this is that here are companies being investigated that the authorities have been round to. They've actually passed the checks. That one there that Sam was talking about, 6 checks that it had in the last 12 months. Passed every single one of them.
This is of huge concern. I mean, there are a number of organisations campaigning to, particularly in Wales, to try and work out why these awful places are licensed, never mind the unlicensed places. And there are campaigns by Pup Aid, by Cariad, by Puppy Love. You know, these are people who are constantly investigating these places and trying to get the information out there. But you have to ask a question, why are these places still licensed? Now, there are, if we remove the Irish one for the moment, because we have the same thing here, we have animal welfare legislation here, which clearly is not being adhered to. You know, the 5 freedoms, the right to exhibit natural behaviour and to have outdoor space, they are not being adhered to. So what is happening? We've never ever, I mean, I've done this 20-odd years trying to campaign against this, and we can't seem to get to the bottom of why there is persistent licensing going on when there are clear animal welfare breaches. Now, one of the things that I have suggested in the past is, in most cases, these places are licensed and there's an initial vet inspection to get your first licence. Now, subsequent ones are usually done by a council representative who announces themselves. Here's a letter, I'm coming next week. And the truth is, we all know these places clean up their act a little bit for the day of the inspection. Simple things could be changed. Why aren't there independent inspections from people like me, vets like Mark, other people? Why don't they have a system for independent, out of the area ad hoc, unannounced inspections so that these places can be checked out properly, because there are clear animal welfare breaches in this country and in this area. This is a serious problem. One of the things I also do is I act as an expert witness for dangerous dog cases, and you have to look at where some of these dogs that are hurting people are being bred from in the first place. And bad breeding is a huge problem. I honestly do think that we are at epidemic proportions with our dog problems in this country, and the government just isn't listening to experts who are putting forward ideas that could actually put a stop to it.
Anyone listening to this who's thinking of getting a puppy or maybe planning to have a dog in the family in the future, they're going to be really concerned, and they're going to want to know that, ask for the mum. But as we've heard there, show bitches are being brought in, right?
Yeah.
They're going to want to know, is there anything that you can see from a dog's behaviour that could inform you that it's been badly treated growing up?
There are some very simple things to do. If you're looking for a pedigree breed, then start with the Kennel Club's Assured Breeder Scheme. These are breeders who are breeding pedigree pups and have already agreed to a higher standard and are actually checked. So health tests on the parents, for example. If you see an advert you're interested in, Google the name, Google the phone numbers. A lot of these ad sites where these dealers and resellers use, you can click on something that says see person's other adverts. If you go and look at those, quite often you'll see all of their previous adverts, and you'll see they've already, it might be a house with 1 litter of puppies and a show bitch, but you'll see that they've sold 12 other breeds in the last year, for example. So simple things like Googling names and phone numbers and looking at the history of a seller can help. Pedigrees, start with the Kennel Club. Look at the Assured Breeders list. See if your breed is being bred by an assured breeder who can give you information about the parents' health tests. I mean, as Sam says it in that, there is no smoke without fire. If you are a little suspicious, pick the phone up, talk to people like me, talk to your vet, go online to people like Puppy Love. You can go on Facebook, anywhere, see Puppy Love, see Pup Aid, see Cariad, and you can say, I've seen an advert, I'm a bit suspicious, what do you think? And we'll always give you an opinion. Unfortunately, too many people will ignore the warning signs and buy anywhere, and you have not rescued a puppy. Unfortunately, you funded a very, very cruel trade.
And I suppose just lastly as well, I'm a big fan of rehousing and rehoming animals.
Absolutely.
I'm a big supporter of the RSPCA at Woodside in Leicester, but also, of course, there's Leicester Animal Aid and, of course, the Loughborough Dogs Trust as well. So, I mean, anyone who thinks there's something that's not quite as good about having a rehomed animal, or rehoming an animal, rather, I've got 2 cats to testify that they are absolutely joyous, and the fact that they weren't born in my arms doesn't mean anything, they're just adorable.
Absolutely. I'm a rescuer myself. I mean, there are very good rescues out there. The ones that you've mentioned, these are organisations checking the dogs. They're neutered, they're chipped, they're vaccinated. They will give you lifelong support if you're struggling, and they're not second-hand goods. Many, many dogs find themselves in rescue who were previously fantastic family pets, and unfortunately the family circumstances put them there, not a problem. So get to your local decent rescue centre and give those dogs a chance as well.
Really good to talk to you, and thank you so much, Debbie.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you.